Now,
Yeah.
another question. Do you always train in Converse All-Stars?
Actually, I was just saying to my wife this morning, I said, I've got to buy some gym shoes.
Yeah. I was
But
just like, I've never seen someone do so much training because they're not a good shoe for well, I mean, I find them like, there's nothing much between your foot and the ground. There's not much give.
I love my Connies. I have worn
Yeah.
them for, how old am I, 36? I've worn them for 25 years.
Yeah. Morning, Dan, and thanks very much for joining us on the 10 before 10 show.
Well, thank you. Well, it's afternoon here in New Zealand, of course, but where you are, I'm sure, lockdown and morning.
Well, actually, no, because I'm 2 hours keep going the other direction. Remember,
That's
I'm in
right.
WA.
That's right. So you're one of the lucky ones. The rest of the team this morning on lockdown?
Everyone except Dave, who's in Cairns.
Right.
So, yeah, no lockdown for Dave either, which is, we like to sort of joke with the rest of the team about, the Melbourne weather and Melbourne restrictions. But I guess it's actually getting to the no longer funny stage, so.
Well,
But,
we're a good month out of lockdown now, and I can tell you the future is bright,
yeah, no,
just keep at it.
it's great to be out of it, that's for sure, mate. And what else was great was this morning's workout on 10 before 10. I definitely, there's certain 10 before 10 sessions that I do where I'm really dripping afterwards, and that was definitely one of them. How did you find it?
I was dripping before I even got to my segment.
Yeah.
It was, I didn't tell anyone this prior, but I'd been to the gym this morning already for close to 2 hours, and I did a pretty heavy core workout. And to see Patrick there starting with some core, I was like, oh, this is sore already.
Yeah.
So it was good, but it was fantastic workout, and I sort of stopped to check everyone's technique, and everyone seemed to be like bang on point. So thoroughly enjoyed the session, and what a great initiative too.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you couldn't check on my technique all the time because I've got a little thing going where I can duck behind the camera, and
You were
as you
sleeping.
pointed out this morning, you were like, oh, where's Al gone? He might just be chilling out.
Yeah, I'm sure you were reading the newspaper on all the restrictions in Victoria, but that's all right.
Pretty much.
Slide.
Now, so I guess straight off the bat, I'm just curious to know how you got into this whole long drive golfing scene. Was it just a case of just realizing at one point that you weren't really that good at normal golf, and so you just needed a new angle?
Firstly, I'm not that good at normal golf, and secondly, it was a pot luck. So my wife and I decided that we were going to be moving back home, and my wife got a job. So we were living in Australia too, and my wife got a job in New Zealand. So she left a couple of weeks before me. I sort of stayed back in Australia, packed up the house, shipped everything in the container back home. Then I flew home to New Zealand, and it was about a week before I actually flew home, and a friend of mine tagged me in a post. There was this event happening, and I thought, well, I've got nothing else on, and I thought, why not? And great idea, let's do it. And then I realized all my clubs were still on a container halfway across the Tasman. So I had to go and buy a club because obviously long drive and golf, you're using different length clubs. And that was my first event, and we were hitting golf balls into about 100k northerly. We had horizontal hail. It was horrible, but it was great fun, and that got me hooked. That was day one of long drive for me.
So, they probably have to change the name of that competition for that day, maybe more like short drive. But
I think after the third round, or second or third round, I was leading the competition with 220 meters, dead straight into the wind.
Yeah, right.
It's not very long.
Nah, I mean, golf's hard enough as it is. I know that for a fact. So, but can you give us some more insight into the sport of long drive golfing? Because to be honest, I've never actually heard of it before. Like, how does it actually work? How long's it been around? Where did it start? Like,
the sport itself's been around for quite some time. There's a tour in the States that's been going for decades, and it sort of picked up some traction across Europe, South Africa, Australasia, and it's just taken this massive influx of competitors and interest of late, and the sport's growing exponentially. And so, yeah, it's been around for a long time, but I mean, what more can you ask of of golf is watching someone standing there on a tee box and just belting it as hard as they can, and they don't even have to go and get it. Like,
Even better.
it's just even better. So it's the real exciting part of golf. It doesn't take 4 hours to finish a round. You can literally go to a driving range, grab your driver out, hit as many balls as you like, and it's still golf. People look at golf many different ways. You go to a mini putt, people are playing golf. You go to a driving range, people are playing golf in their own sort of perspective, right? And it's just another form of, like, do you follow cricket?
Sort of.
So you've got test match, right? 5 days of cricket.
Yeah.
Now, in my mind, the only thing that should last 5 days in regards to sports is the Olympics. So you've got this 5-day format. Then they've got this 1-day format, which is a bit more enjoyable. Then they've got the 2020 format, which is 2 hours of just fast-paced action, big hits. And that's the equivalent to long drive golf.
Right. So is it like, but do you go down different holes? There's no different, or it's just driving range?
So typically speaking, if you're going to an event, there will be an area set up, and it'll be 450 yards long. It'll be 50 yards wide. It'll be painted with 10-meter increments or 10-yard increments, and you're heading onto a fairway basically. That could be a hole at a golf course, or it could be in a massive open farm field. It could be anything, as long as it's got the space and the grid painted. You pretty much can have a long drive event. So, for example, we've had a few events recently at a golf club, Murawai Golf Links here in New Zealand, where we actually teed it up down the first hole because it just naturally set up for a good grid.
Yeah.
But there are other places like over in the States, in Thackerville, Oklahoma, there's, where they have the world champs, there's just this big open field. And they paint up a grid, and they've got a purposely built stand, and it's just fantastic.
Oklahoma, that's farming country right there, isn't it?
Oh, exactly. Yeah. So they've obviously got it all pretty well manicured all year round. You've got your greenkeepers out there cutting it with a pretty small pair of scissors. It's all nice and flat. But I mean, a grid is relative. You can have it anywhere. Everyone's going to be heading onto the same fairway. So, and then to touch on more of the how the sport works is you typically get 6 balls to hit in 2.5 minutes. So, Al Black up against Dan Crook, we might be hitting next to each other, and we're both hitting 6 balls down this fairway in 2.5 minutes. And at the end of that 2.5 minutes, there'll be some grid workers out on the grid, and they'll go and measure your longest ball and say, right, you beat Dan because he missed the grid.
So it's one shot. It comes down to the longest ball. It's not a cumulative total of all 6 or anything like that.
No. Very interesting, actually. And I'm sure that somewhere in the world that is a format, but typically speaking, if you were playing on the tour, it's your longest ball. And if it was a match play scenario, so we were through to the finals and it was you versus me, whoever's longer wins and goes through. But leading up to that point, there might be a points play where you and I will play everyone in the field and we accumulate points. So if I beat you, there might be 4 of us in a group. The first place in that group gets 200 points, 100 points, 75 points, and 50. And then it accumulates. So then you're ranked into a top 16 at the end of that match play, the pool play rather. So there are various ways of doing it, and it just comes down to time. Yeah,
cool. And I was just wondering if there's any, like, statistically, are there some countries where, statistically it's very popular? Like, for example, I don't know, like Iceland's got all the world's strongest men. So, is it really popular there? Like,
well, I don't believe I've seen anyone from Iceland competing. I'd imagine their arms would be too big and their lats would be too wide to actually rotate.
That's true.
However, I think they'd probably win on the intimidation front. Just walking up to some of the guys that compete on the big stage, they're massive. I'm 6 foot and 105 kilos, and I'm tiny.
Right.
You
mean for a long drive golfer, you're tiny.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. It's the taller you are, the longer your swing arc. The faster the ball swing speed, so therefore the longer the ball would go. There are the anomaly. Currently the world's longest is the world champion is Kyle Berkshire. He's standing at 6'3" and probably about 90 kilo. So he's tall, but he's lean in comparison to some of the other guys. But you've got you've got boys out there at 6'6" and 130 kilo. Like that's a big lad.
Yeah, definitely. And you touched on it just before. Like, how many tournaments do you actually attend? I mean, do you travel overseas for them? Like, yeah, how does it work?
So, there are many tours around. So, as I said, there's South Africa, there's the UK have one, German Long Drive have one, there's the States, Canada, Australasia. The Australasian tour hasn't been there hasn't been a lot of events of late. Obviously, we've all been in lockdown, et cetera, but we are looking going forward to have a good 5 to 10 events every year down here in New Zealand alone. And that's across a couple of different companies that are running those events. But, we're looking to grow the sport down here. So the more events we can compete at, the better. But, I mean, last year, I was the year before last year, I went to China. We had an event up in China. Then there were an event in Australia. Then there were about 5 or 6 events in New Zealand. So it really depends on who's putting the events on, how many there are. This year we've only had one. I think we've had 1 or 2 events this year, and then lockdown happened.
Yeah.
I mean, going forward, the plan is to definitely have. We'd love to have one a month. That'd be amazing. And I guess the plan going forward would be the more we can compete, the more chance we have of being able to compete on the world stage. So,
sounds good. Now, another question: do you always train in Converse All Stars?
Actually, I was just saying to my wife this morning. I said, I've got to buy some gym shoes.
Yeah. I was just like, I've never seen someone do so much training because they're not a good shoe for I mean, I find them like, there's nothing much between your foot and the ground. There's not much give.
I love my Connies. I have worn them for, how old am I? 36. I've worn them for 25 years.
Yeah, right.
I love them. I've had so many pairs throughout my life. I just love them. I'll go bushwalking in them. I just find them so good. I love them. I just saw them in one of your videos, and I saw them in another one. I was like, whoa! Like you got really different colours. Yeah. No, I love them.
And as a long drive specialist, do you have to have even better eyesight than a normal golfer? Is that you got to see where it goes?
Not really. I mean, at the end of the day, you've hit it. What happens after you've hit it doesn't matter, so you don't even need to look at it. Unless you're obviously watching what the ball flight's doing, say, into the wind, so you can adjust for the next shot. But your eyesight doesn't have to be any better than the next guy. You've got grid workers down on the grid watching where the ball lands and sort of radioing back to the MC or the person scoring what distance you're getting. But if you're in a rhythm, you've got 6 balls, 2.5 minutes, and you just kind of let it rip. Yeah,
fair enough. Now, I'll get to you at the PT side of things shortly, but how does the training differ between a long drive golfer and a normal golfer, if at all?
Good question, actually, and there's probably a bit of a grey area there. It definitely changes the difference. I mean, you can train for golf and you will be doing similar things for long drive, but then I wouldn't necessarily put a golfer through long drive training. However, it's not going to hurt them if they speed their swing up, because then they can dial it back to hit the grid. So what you'll find is a long drive golfer will be working to hit their absolute peak before an event and swinging it as fast as possible in the hope that 1 out of 6 balls hits the grid. But a golfer's totally opposite. You need to hit the fairway every time. So you really are focusing on accuracy when you're training for golf. A lot of stability, mobility. Mobility is important with long drive, but stability not as much. You are really all over the show. You're really just trying to let rip, and you bloody near let go of the golf club in long drive. Whereas golf, you want to be balanced, still, composed, totally different.
Yeah. Okay. And but it's not just golf that you've had a crack at. I mean, you've been doing superbikes, boxing, rugby, squash, cricket, softball, cycling. Do you still dabble in any of those?
Probably to my detriment, actually. My wife gets a bit fed up, but I tend to do a lot. Like, for example, tomorrow night I'm playing indoor cricket, and then after that I've got pool, billiards. So, you know, I do still dabble in a lot of the other things. Squash is more of a recreational bit of fitness these days. I'm not playing anything like I used to. Superbikes went out the door when I had my daughter. I sold my race bike. And I find like I have had a go since my daughter has been around, and I was not in the right headspace. You know, I'm thinking about what happens if I come off, and what happens if I can't walk home, you know, as opposed to it doesn't matter if I crash. The mental side of it's changed now that I've got a family. So I just, no pun intended, hung the leathers up, sold the bike, and focusing more on the sport that I can do for a longer time now. So I can play golf and compete until my body breaks down, basically.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So, I mean, given the background that we just spoke about, it's not really a surprise that your day job, if you like, is a qualified personal trainer, but not just any type of PT, because you're what's known as TPI certified. So, how did you get into PT, and can you tell us more about this TPI certification, which I've never actually heard of before?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I've always been in the gym. Probably, let me paint the picture for you, Al. Back at school, I went to a boarding school, and I would have been 13 to 15, and I couldn't do a push-up.
Right.
I would have been 100, 105, 106 kilos of just utter body fat. There was no muscle tone whatsoever. I was strong per se, and I could do everything that I wanted to do, but there was just no muscle definition, and I couldn't do any body weight exercise. So that was where I started. And when I hit the gym, would have been early 20s. I started training, and I had this new lease on life, and I just felt so much more in control of myself when I started generating body fat or converting body fat to muscle. I mean, I'm still that same weight, but the percentage body fat versus what it used to be is much lower. So, I can do 20 pull-ups, I can do push-ups, and I just feel like I'm much more control now. So I had a corporate career. I was working for a pretty big company in Australia, 600 odd stores. And I was working at a desk, basically, desk job, sitting down 8 hours a day, and it just wasn't me. Yeah. And I kind of went and thought, I'm making a company a lot of money and I'm making someone rich, but what I wanted to do was make people rich.
Yeah.
In themselves. I wanted to make people progress, and I wanted to go home and have a sense of I've done something today. And what I really noticed was when I was working with people and helping them advance in their career or their sport, I felt much better. Even back to Superbikes, when I was sort of doing some coaching with that, like I loved it. And watching someone get their knee down for the first time around a corner, or just gaining confidence and getting better at something, I felt so much more just like I had achieved something. So when I moved back home from New Zealand, I decided, well, I know enough about the gym. I'm going to study more. I'm going to get qualifications behind me, and I'm going to really push it. So that's what I did. And I got my first, the personal training and fitness certificates and all of that. And then TPI happened when I decided to go and branch out more golf. Yeah. So TPI stands for Titleist Performance Institute. So it's about the biomechanics of a golf swing. It's about the body swing connection. It's about Al Black standing there trying to swing a golf club, but he can't actually do something that the coach is saying because his body won't allow it. For example, external shoulder rotation. If you can't externally rotate your shoulder, you're not going to be able to get up here and create lag by external rotation. So there's a relationship between the medical practitioner, the golf coach, and the TPI trainer for 45 of the top 50 golfers in the world.
Right.
So TPI is all about fixing the body so you can swing a golf club efficiently.
Got it. Yep.
And so that's kind of, that's the direction I've kind of taken with that. And now I've got a bunch of pros working with me, and, we're getting good results. Swing speed's getting faster. So it's really, really exciting.
Yeah, cool. Now, you've also just become an ambassador for PTP, which apparently is the best train-at-home fitness equipment company in the world. Disclaimer, PTP also happens to be a client of TTS. So how did this relationship come about?
Well, it's interesting because I've used PTP for about 8 years now.
Yeah.
So I'm actually a long-time user, and when I moved back to New Zealand,
for those out in the audience there who are watching and listening, give us a brief rundown on what PTP is. What the products?
So I can show you.
Here we go.
So PTP is like we've got the bands, we've got power tubing. It's all about being able to train anywhere, anytime you like. You've got MIDI bands and glute resistance bands. It's basically a product that was introduced into the market to really revolutionize training, I guess, and being able to do it from home. Warming up on the golf course, you can't take a gym with you, so working with power tubing, you can take it with you. You can do your warm up before a game. Like I posted a video recently. I was stuck in the snow and I couldn't go anywhere, so I got my PTP out and did a little workout on the side of the road in the snow. So
I saw that one.
Yeah. And they've got a whole heap of product about recovery. They've got massage balls, they've got foam rollers, but it's just a product that and especially for golf, because you can do a lot of rotational work. I just think it's the best thing that I've ever had in my hands, and that's why my gym has a lot of it. How the relationship started, actually a friend of mine, Ajit Rai, is sponsored by a company here in New Zealand who distribute prints, and they also distribute PTP.
Right.
So the relationship was through one of our Davis Cup tennis players who put me onto these guys, and they said, oh, well, you've been using our product for so long, why don't you jump on board and be an ambassador? And I just was humbled to have the opportunity, and who was ever going to say no to that?
Yeah, no, perfect. No, it's from everything that I've seen, the way you use it, it seems like a match made in heaven, that one.
Oh, perfect.
So can you tell us what has been your biggest highs in your career so far? I'm guessing when you were captain of the New Zealand team for a while there, that would have been an honour.
Oh, it was fantastic. I had such a great time, and I still remember the phone call to the day when I was asked if I would lead the New Zealand team to take on the Aussies when we flew over to Australia, and wiped the tear. But it was just this uplifting of, I can't believe it. Like, this is, not only did I make this national team, like I've been asked to be the captain. So it was fantastic. It was really good. And we flew to Australia as a team, and we had a uniform, and we had our bags, and it just felt amazing. And I can now, slightly connect with, the other national competitors in different sports, how they must feel of competing for their country. And we actually lost that first year by, I think there was 1.5 points in it, which was very closely fought.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah. The Aussies beat us in the first year, but in rebuttal to that, we have won the 2 years following that. So currently 2-1 to New Zealand. So I led the team to those 2 wins as well. So that was definitely a high. Winning those 2 on home soil was fantastic. So definitely a high for sure.
Yeah, cool. So with the highs, unfortunately, come the lows. So what's been the biggest low you've had to deal with so far, and how did you get past that?
Interesting question. A low isn't
some sort of injury, but
oh well, actually, this is gold. So
I could give you an out there because
no, you're right.
2
weeks. 2 weeks after I got asked to be the captain, I went down to Queenstown for a mate's 30th birthday, and it was winter, and we decided to go snowboarding.
Yeah.
And I was halfway down this, session down the hill, and I asked my wife if she could video me hit this jump.
Yeah.
And so, of course, ego was up and testosterone's up, and I'm, excited to hit this jump and do a trick for the video. And I was coming down the hill and I actually checked up a little bit too much. So I was going too slow. So I tried to kick off this kicker and I actually caught an edge and crashed and I tore my tricep. Tore my tricep off the bone.
Oh, I can see it. Yeah.
Within 3 days, I was back in Auckland, driven down to Whakatane to a hospital, had the surgery.
Say something else there for a second. I've never heard of that place.
Whakatane. Whakatane is on the east coast of the North Island. So that was the only hospital that could fit me in as quick as I got in.
Yeah, right.
Otherwise, I'd have to wait 6 weeks. So I knew, because I was qualified by then, I knew the time it would take to heal this. And all I'm thinking is, I've just been named in the New Zealand squad. I've been asked to captain the team. I'm flying to Australia in 2.5 months.
Yeah.
How am I possible? And I was in a sling for 12 weeks.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Right.
So I managed to get everything done, the rehab, the surgery, in time. And I got to the point my physio said to me, "Right, Dan, I want you to try and hit some golf balls today." And I said, "I played a full round of golf yesterday." Well, how I handled it was just doing it right. Like, injuries are part of the journey. You're going to get injured. These things happen, but you've just got to make sure that you do what the professionals say. You do the rehab, and you will come back stronger. And I've lost a bit of I don't know if you can see that there, but I can't actually straighten my arm out. See, it's kind of bent. So I lost a bit of my arc in golf, but I've actually used that as another power accumulator to have a bit of a bent front arm. So it's kind of worked. It's kind of worked out. But when that happened, I was.
You've been re-engineered.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so but that was definitely a down point, especially after such a high. But we got through it.
You got back though.
Yeah, I was impressed. I mean, I was a bit nervous getting back into it, but the surgeon said to me, "Look, you can't undo what I've done in your arm.
Yeah.
You're not going to re-break what I've done in the mending process." So I just took that on board and just pushed it every day. Funnily enough, I had a Mediband. And I 100% had a PTP Mediband, and I was all day just doing tricep extensions all day, every day. And I progressively made it shorter, which makes it tighter, which makes it harder to contract. And I just all day, it was like tied up around the door, just standing there waiting for customers. And that's how I built it up and managed to get back quicker than I probably could have otherwise.
That's a good story. Now, we've obviously had the whole COVID-19 thing happening this year, but New Zealand has been one of the best performing countries for infection rates. But you've still had a lockdown. And how did that impact your training and the work that you were doing also with your PT clients?
Yeah, it was pretty tough, actually. The studio wasn't open at that point. So anything I was doing was kind of in the gym that I would normally train in. And I had all the equipment. So I actually took it away with me to my in-laws' place down the line. They have an avocado orchard and they had some space. So my wife and I decided, look, let's take our daughter down there. There's more space. We can do stuff outside. There's family there. She worked through so I could babysit, but then, I had to work sometimes too. So my in-laws would help out with looking after my daughter. But I was lucky enough to be able to take the weights away with me and some of the PTP stuff that I had. So during lockdown, I was able to train every day.
Right.
And we had the best weather. We had one morning of a little bit of rain. Otherwise, it was just like nothing had happened. So we were lucky. I know others weren't. But when it comes to the training side of things, I had a net down there. I was hitting golf balls every day. I was training every day. I was using my PTP at home. So I was lucky. And I'm thankful that I had the gear to take away with me.
And were you able to take any positives away from that whole experience at all, like the whole lockdown? Or?
Yeah, absolutely, actually. I think the creative juices were flowing during lockdown, and a mate of mine, Chase, he's also a fellow competitor, but also a client of mine. We decided to start this YouTube channel, and we haven't gone live with the actual videos yet because we've shot some of the episodes, but we've gone around New Zealand and started training with the elite athletes in every discipline. So we kind of get a taste of what it's like to train with, say, a boxer or a rower or an Olympic swimmer. So, and we can incorporate some of their training into long drive training, which has been very beneficial. So we come up with that during lockdown. So probably wouldn't have done that had we not been in lockdown.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of creative stories just like that one that have sprung up all over the world. Because that was actually going to be my next question. I was going to ask about that YouTube project, but you've taken care of that one already. So just on that though, like, when is it due to go live, or when is the first video due to go up, do you think?
It's a good question. We kind of wanted to shoot sort of 10 episodes before we chose which order they wanted to go up in, because we were going to put them up in consecutive Fridays. Yeah. So we've shot 3 or 4 now, and we've got 3 lined up for the next 3 weeks. So it's very exciting. But I would say summertime, the start of summer. And people can really take home a lot from these videos because they are very educational as well. We talk about the sort of things that we're doing in the session, and like, who doesn't want to see how an Olympic swimmer trains? Who doesn't want to see how our best boxer trains? It's impressive.
Well, yeah, looking forward to checking that one out. And it's not just on YouTube that you've got great content coming out, or about to in a few months, but on your normal social channels, you've got some great content there with the way that you train and tips and tricks and all the rest of it, and just you and long drive golfing. So can you give us some more insight into how you use social media for your business activities?
Yeah, I think one thing you'll notice about my social media is I keep it somewhat professional, and I've got 3 or 4 pages. My long drive competitor page is about long drive golf, nutrition, and the gym. Like, you won't see weekend photos of the family doing a mountain bike ride. Like, I try and keep personal life personal, and I keep my page to what I'm doing that's based around what I do. And then I've got my SportFit DC page, which is purely about my clients and about the PT work and the people that I have through the studio. And my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page, that's for family and friends. That's, look what I'm doing with my daughter today. Like, that's what, because with Instagram, anyone can follow you. Yeah. And I don't necessarily want photos of my daughter in the bath when people that I don't know could be watching it. And it's just a personal thing. And I just feel more comfortable that way, keeping private life private. And,
Yeah, I know the TTS team, have already said in the background, oh, damn, we love what he does, like, it's just, you compartmentalize it all very well. And we've really enjoyed checking out your content. So keep that one up.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Almost at the end of our chat, I just wanted to ask if you were chatting to any up and coming golfers, if you had any advice for them and what that advice might be.
Yeah, look, go for it. Firstly, go for it. You've got one life. Unfortunately, I left long drive pretty late in my career. As I said, I'm 36 now, and I'm up against guys that are sort of in their early 20s, and it does take its toll the older you get, believe it or not, Al. And I think the main thing that I would tell, for example, a 21-year-old Dan Crook is have a routine. Get up in the morning, do your training, go to work. Get home, eat nutritious, good, wholesome, whole food meals. Don't eat processed food, and stay away from refined carbohydrates. Sugar is a killer. But I think the biggest thing, if I could tell anyone, would be to incorporate a warm-up before you swing a golf club, because there are more injuries, especially back injuries from golf, than any other contact sport on the planet. Now, that's saying something. For the amount of people that play golf in New Zealand, 95% of them do not warm up. So I'm an advocate at the moment. I'm trying to. You might be able to see there on the left-hand side of the board up here that the blue writing. That is a standardized warm-up program. We've got first gear, second gear, third gear, and it's all about activation, a bit of golf mobility, and then really hone in on the golf movements. And every one of my clients, that's why it's up there permanently, they go through that before we even start swinging a golf club or doing any training, because there is so much moving. You've got side tilt, you've got, external rotation, you've got just everything going on that can just cause damage to the body. So we need to warm up properly.
So when I used to play, when I used to play golf, and even when once a year you might have a swing or whatever, but I always remember like getting up onto that first tee and just seeing people just do this, just a couple of things with their arms, or like that, 1, 2, and then off they go. And a lot of these guys are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and it's like it's just a recipe for disaster, really, isn't it?
Oh, it's not conducive to longevity, is it?
No.
If you're just going to get up and start work, the amount of people I see, I'll start with a pitching wedge and just do a couple of swings, then 9-iron, and then a 6-iron, and that's not a warm up.
Yeah, no, that's just yeah. So people have got a lot to learn from that one. So that's perfect. Well, Mike, thanks so much for joining us. It's been a very enjoyable chat.
Thanks, Al. Appreciate it. Really do.
Yeah. And don't be a stranger. Looking forward to following how you go once the whole lockdown is finished and the tournaments start back up again.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And I hope I can maybe participate in some of your future 10 before 10s as a spectator, so to speak. I think they're a great initiative. So
maybe I'll do that with you. I'll just watch as well.
Yeah. I was going to partake, of course.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Maybe not with a session prior, but it's good.
No worries.
Right. Thanks, Al. Appreciate your time.
Yeah. Cheers.
Thanks, mate.